Okay, so we've just got 30 minutes today, so I'm going to get going. So welcome to the latest EFS 21.2 release webinar. This release is full of features which are going to improve your respondents' feedback experiences and give you greater control over changes you might want to make. We've got new question types, enhancements to the Leadership 360 process flow, and much more. And today it's a couple of familiar faces for you. So I'm Jay Hartley, UK Customer Success Manager, and I'm joined again by Ludger, who'll introduce himself.
Yes, Ludger Kesting here. Hi, nice to virtually meet you. I'm Global Customer Advisory Lead and Solution Expert at Tivian.
Thanks, Ludger. So moving on to the agenda for today, we are going to start by looking at the many developments and enhancements that we've made to the survey area of EFS. And we've got a few little demos that we're going to show you on these. We'll then take a look at the changes in portals with a specific demo on the Leadership 360 flow. And then, as always, please ask questions as we work through the webinar. There's a little question option against the on the webinar icon, so please add there and we will pick them up at the end. So let's get going with the survey enhancements. So the first one we're going to look at is project snapshots. So this is a great new feature that we've added in. Essentially, it allows you to take a snapshot of a live project. So what that means is it creates a copy of your live project and enables you to go in using all the normal project functionality, test it, make changes or fix things that might be broken, make sure they are working before, once you are happy, coming back and applying these directly over the top of the live survey. Whilst doing all your changes, the live survey can be ticking along, or you can pause the live survey if it's something you need to fix. And whilst you're uploading everything, the existing survey and participant data will not be affected. So it's a seamless process that enables you to make those changes and kind of carry out any testing on those in a safe space. Next, we've got a new question type, and we're delighted to have added the carousel question type into our platform. It's something that customers have been asking for, and indeed a few customizations exist for this already. It's something that will provide a great user experience for respondents, where you've got a large and long list of questions. This process will allow you to present them all within the same page, so there's no sort of lag with page loading. It also moves through nice and quickly, so as soon as you give your answer to a question, the next question will appear. In terms of setting these up, obviously the look and feel is already built in place. It's a basic matrix question, so all the standard features for that exist. The only difference is there's a few control elements that you need for the carousel, and you'll be able to amend those. This is something Ludger is going to demonstrate for us in a minute or two. Next up, another one around the survey side of things, and again, it's something that's been asked for by customers before. So it's effectively the ability to carry out some dynamic hiding within the same page. So as all of you know, at the moment you can show and hide questions, but in the past that's all had to be something that's been done kind of either on a subsequent page or with a customization. We're bringing that all into the platform so that when you are creating some routing and you want to show or hide a question depending on an answer of a question, you'll be able to do that now within the page. And the page will refresh automatically for the end user. Again, it's a great improvement and it's going to enhance the user's experience. In addition to the hiding, there's also a small update on the way the pages load. So with version 3.1, the way they're going to work is that they're actually going to quickly fade in rather than having a long kind of blank space whilst there's a loading screen. They're going to build in, and it's going to make the UX feel much more continuous. Again, Ludger's going to show us the dynamic question in a moment. The next one is quite a simple change in theory, but something that's taken a little while to pull together. So this is around the SMS module. So some of you have got the SMS module, which enables you to send out survey invites via SMS alongside email invites. Certainly the customers that we have got this with say it's great for reaching out to hard to kind of access populations, typically the younger populations who are very mobile ready. We've actually enhanced this module now so that as well as the ability to send out the email, the SMSs, you're able to track them. So in the same way as you can with emails, you'll now be able to track responses, the delivery notification. And again, if you click into individual items, you'll be able to identify any bad data that you might have, correct that, and then resend out those SMSs. Beyond all of those kind of major changes that we've been making, we've also added quite a number which will help with the survey management and user experience. The first is that you can now we will now version the layout releases. So I mentioned that we've got version 3.1 coming out with the next release. The way this will work is rather than by default being applied to every project, this is actually going to be something that you guys can control. So as it gets released, you will be able to go into the layout template and you will be able to see what version you're on, and you can determine whether or not to migrate to the latest version. Now, this is typically something that we've implemented because we know lots of you guys have got some serious customizations in play or complex surveys. So this will enable you to decide whether or not the new version works okay with those customizations. And if not, you can either make changes to the customizations or the layouts, or just stick with the existing one. It's going to work and dovetail very nicely with the new snapshot feature that we've added. Another one, a small improvement here for the UX side of things. We know that the world is becoming more and more mobile first, so we've made a small but important update to the upload question type. Now it's going to interface really effectively with mobile phones so that a respondent can access their phone library, their camera, or any files that they may have on their phone. It's going to be really useful if you want respondents to quickly share content back with you, such as images about clothing or cars that they like. We're going to show a video of this in action in a little moment. In addition to all of those changes, there's lots of minor updates on the survey side of things and also around the tracking. There's a list of them here, but I would suggest that you guys spend a bit of time looking at the online documentation to really familiarize yourselves with these. Now I'm going to hand over to Ludger. He's going to demo a few areas and then it will come back to me to look at the upload question.
Perfect. Thank you, Jay. Let me quickly change to the browser so that I can show you the improvements live. Okay, so we have here a simple survey with just one question on the screen, something about the customer club. Could be, of course, anything with a little bit negative and positive scaled answers. And here we see the dynamic hide and show feature on one page. If I select here the negative answers, I see no changes. I could just continue. If I say, hey, I like this new customer club, for example, I see an additional question popping up. Dynamically, this is bound to a condition that just says, hey, if the answer option is 3 or above, or actually 4 and above, then this question shows up. Otherwise, it's dynamically hidden. And now I can provide my opinion about these new styles that maybe the company just provided. I want to get some opinions about, and I can use the navigation to switch between the different answer options, or I can just use here the scale that is built in. Could be images, could be, of course, text, and the same for the dimension. Does not need to be an image, could, of course, be a text element. And I should say, hey, I like this style, and this one, yeah, why not? And this one say, hey, it's neutral, and then I could finish. So there's a small progress bar building up in this new carousel question type. I could also go back again and change this to say, hey, that's too dark for me. And instead, that's the style I would prefer. And also here, I see then a follow-up question popping up. If I say it's neutral or negative or I don't like it, I can just continue because there's nothing else to say. But if I like it, for example, I will be asked, what do I like specifically about this product? And that just makes it easier to not lose context on a question. So you can always go back as a participant and see, hey, what do I have really answered and why do they asking me about these details, while still focusing on the specific question, not being distracted by too many questions that are already open on the same page. Yeah, so much about the new hide and show feature on one page and the new carousel question type. And with that, back to our presentation very quickly. And also back to you, Jay.
Luca, so this is the new upload question style. So clicking select file would bring up your mobile view. I can go into my camera, look at the particular things. I can go into my files, or I can go into my photo library. So as you can see, a respondent is able to quickly go through, pick what they want, click choose, and then submit that into the survey. This is something that didn't work in the old version. Obviously, this is an iPhone version. It does work with other mobile operating systems as well, and it's something that we think would be very useful for customers where they're looking to reach out to individuals that are a lot more mobile and tech savvy than they were maybe 5 years ago, and they want to be able to give instant responses via their mobile rather than using a desktop or something like that. So it should make the whole process a lot more seamless, and also a lot more improved from a user perspective. Okay, so we've looked a lot at the survey side of things. We're now going to take a look at the portals changes and also a few changes that have been made with the people module and one or two that are linked across. So if I go first to the Leadership 360, so we've had a Leadership 360 for a number of years now. It's a great process which is part of our guides feature within portals, which means that it's got an automated workflow sitting behind it. You're able to determine elements of that module so that you determine how long the guide might be live for. And the way it's worked in the past is it requires the self to respond, because of, as you would imagine, with a 360, the individual themselves has to provide some kind of feedback on which we can compare other raters' feedback to. However, what we found with a number of customers that have launched this program is that the challenge with the fixed window was that quite often the self might be very good at getting the process set up, but they would be very bad at then being brave enough to go into the platform and provide feedback. So you'd have everybody else going in, providing some really insightful feedback for the individual. But because the self had not done their own 360, that data just got lost. So what we've now done is change the process flow a little bit so that when the individual is going through the guide and they're selecting the people that they want to provide feedback on them, rather than just being able to kind of launch the guide out to them and all the invites flying out, they now have to click on a self-assessment button, and it kind of tries to drive them to completing the self-assessment immediately. Obviously, that's not always going to be practical and the individual may not do it. However, what we've done is we've now ensured that no invites are getting sent out to the other raters. So they're going through the process as an individual. They are forced, whether immediately or coming back to it, to complete their self-assessment. So the second change that we've made is when they go in to view the their 360, they can see that the monitoring line indicates whether everybody else has started. So you can see it's quite faint on the screenshot, but you can see that the faded outline indicates that nobody else was able to start the feedback in that window, and the point at which the kind of line cuts in and goes darker is when the feedback began for everybody else. This will ensure that if the other people complete feedback on the individual, the self has done their assessment. It means you're then going to get a 360 report for you, and therefore you're going to benefit, and also the businesses that are using this are going to benefit from some leadership improvements. And Ludger will show us that in action shortly. Another change that we've made in the portals area is the ability to basically create a tester user that you can then directly link into your portal. So in the past, there were workarounds for this, and it was possible to go in and grab the person's record and kind of link it with the login link and put them together, and then you'll be able to log in. Now, all you need to do is set up a tester user for the relevant portal, and then when you are in your portal module, you can create, or rather assign, that tester to the portal. And that means that by clicking that link, you're going to be able to go in and you're going to be able to just check that your portal is looking as you want it. So you can go in, or if you're supporting somebody, you can, somebody who's got a query, you can go in and check what they're looking at without having to kind of go through a couple of extra steps. So I think you'll all agree this is a simple but very effective change for the portals area. In addition, we've got 3 or 4 other changes in the people module. We've got the bonus point deduction in update rules, which is just going to be something nice and simple that enables you to kind of run some updates to remove points rather than have to go through and do it on a manual basis or via some other format. We've also got the ability to set panelists status inactive through the update data. Again, something you could do through bulk, but again, lots of customers have got data outside of the system. They want to do it to lots of people. It's much easier to do it this way. And then the final one that we probably want to highlight in a little bit more detail is the ability to, or not the ability, the check that we've now put in on deleting panel groups. Again, this has been a little bit of a challenging area for some customers, whereby you've got a number of people that have got access to the panel area, and somebody sees a group and they think, oh, that I don't need that group anymore. They go ahead and delete it, and unfortunately they haven't realized that that group is being used by some other processes somewhere, and that's caused some issues for the broader business. So what we've now done is a dependencies check. So if the group is being used by any other process, it will prevent you from then being able to delete that project, and then you'll be able to go and check against that group on a separate tab where it's being used, so that you can then identify if it's being used by something that is still relevant, or indeed if it's something that can be, that process can be disconnected, and then you can actually delete the group. So hopefully, again, something very simple which will help make sure that mistakes, or minimize the chances of mistakes happening. All the others are detailed in the online documentation, so again, would suggest that you just take a moment to peruse those at your leisure. I'm going to hand back to Ludger, and he's going to take us through a quick demo of a couple of those.
Yes, perfect. So let's jump to a portal and have a closer look at the changes that Jay described already. 1 second to switch my screen. And I will go through the process. Okay, so now I'm logged in a portal as a manager, as a leader, maybe as a professional who has access to the leadership feedback guide. Of course, this does not necessarily need to be a 360, it could be a variation of that. In this case, it's leadership feedback, so I'm in the position to ask other groups of how they rate myself, and I will be asked for self-assessment. So let's start a new process to see the enhancement. So I see questions here. I can now invite the members. This could be predefined. I have now here the different groups, managers, teams, peers. There can be other groups configured as well. This could be also predefined. So if the manager is known, which I think should be normally the case, then the manager would be directly presented here. In this case, we configured it so that it's very open, and I can define the manager and team and the peers myself. And again, maybe in other scenarios, there would be a group that is called customers or something like that. I can now select the participants. I can add a personal message. And send this out, or at least put it in the queue, and now the system will remind me, hey, please first do your self-assessment. I could do it directly from here, or let's say I'm in a hurry, I have to leave, I want to do it later. And this was the part that Jay mentioned, that maybe I forget to take my self-assessment, but now the next time I come into the portal, I can go to the status here and see that the system reminds me, hey, please take your self-assessment, otherwise the process might not continue. So let's do that. And I go in, see the small survey. This is our methodology here in this case, but of course, this could be any kind of leadership or development, 360-degree or variation of that. And I see then here the different categories. I give a self-assessment and say, hey, inspirational leadership, that's actually not really my strength. So let's rate myself a little bit lower. Same for leading as example. Still new in this role, but supported development, that's my thing. I think I can cover this quite well. And collaboration, yeah, I'm up to date with that. Rewarded recognition, maybe last year have not really had time to discuss with the team a lot, so that made me a little bit lower. Okay, that concludes the process. I finished the survey at the system. If I go back and actually reload the page, or go back to this area again, I see now the process has really started. I'm allowed to see the progress. I see that one person responded, that was me in this case, and I have here other groups invited. In this case, I just added one person. Normally you would, of course, a few more, except of manager. I can send reminders from this page. I can view the participants. I can say, hey, there's this new person who actually just started in the team, and I want to add her to my team to also provide feedback for me. And once this process is finished, I can go in and see the results of my self-assessment and of the rating of the other rater groups, and compare how am I perceived, how my leadership skills and talents have been rated. And I can compare this against my self-assessment to see where do I have strength, so where do I rate myself very well, and where do maybe others rate me very well, and I actually maybe think that's not a strength. And there would be, for example, hidden strengths. Here, the small arrow icon indicates my rating in this area of rewarded recognition. I rated myself a little bit low here, but others say, hey, you're actually quite good at that. So it might be interesting for me, a hidden strength that I wasn't aware of, and I was always struggling with that for myself. But now I find out that this is actually quite well received here by the team. I can split it then in detail by the different rater groups, go into the details of the question, see the distribution of the answers, and similar for development areas where my results are a little bit lower, I can see the known strength, but also the blind spots, maybe the known strengths where I rate myself a little bit lower, but also the teams rate me lower, which doesn't have to be bad. I mean, if I know I'm not the perfect communicator, then at least I'm aware of that, and maybe that's something I want to work on. A little bit different for the blind spots, where I say, hey, I'm actually quite good in inspirational leadership in this example, but the others say, hey, that's not so much the case. So that's a point where I could look into. But of course, any kind of question type that follows this logic can be applied here. Does not need to be our methodology, and example can be used for various use cases. And now we make sure that the self-assessment is directly part of that. Yeah, and with that, once over to you, Jay.
That's great. So just want to give people an opportunity to submit any questions on what they've seen. And I've got one in here, which was, I think, linked to the snapshot. It's just asking what would happen if a respondent is in the middle of the survey when the changes are applied. And I think the answer there is that the way the platform would work, it would potentially update the look and feel around it, but in terms of the actual question itself, of the questionnaire itself, they will work through the flow still that they were originally in. Typically, EFS takes a snapshot itself when you're going through the survey, and it would maintain that as you're going through. So that would be that one. And then there was a second question in around the 360, and this is somebody who obviously has the 360, so they are asking about the fact that when the 360 has fixed dates, and so they are asking whether or not this will be affected by the self. So for example, if they were delayed, what would happen? You know, would the others only have a couple of days or something like that? And the answer to that is no. The fixed dates would start for everyone else at the point at which the self completed their feedback. So say there was a 2-week window for the self to complete the feedback, and they actually didn't do it until some way through that second week, then only at that point would the process be triggered for everyone else, and they would then get a full 2 weeks. So whilst the process is improved, it is intelligent enough to make sure that those end users don't kind of, or the people that are a bit slow to get their self-assessment, don't cause problems for other people. I've got another question in here. What is the question type number for the carousel, the new carousel question, Ludger? I don't know if that's one you can just check on your installation and share.
Yes, yeah, that's a matrix question, if that's the question. So it's a 311 question type, if that's answers the question. So from a data type perspective, it's a matrix, which I haven't shown. Actually, you can also switch to the traditional matrix view even. So if people want for some reason see all these different dimensions, then you can do that.
Thanks. Yeah, I think that does ask it. And then another question here around will the guidance notes include, okay, so I assume this means like the online question, the online documentation, will the guidance notes include how to set up the new dynamic question? And I haven't seen
absolutely. I mean,
the
I think
online documentation, but I would have thought it would take us through.
Yes, that will be updated.
And if not, we'll make sure that they are. That's great. I'm just going to check. My view is really bad. There we go. There's one more question. Right. So, or in fact, there's one more person who's asked a few questions. And I'm just trying to get a view of these properly. So, thank you for the webinar. It started off, which is great. Question 1, snapshot. When a project is live, which version will the respondent see? Oh, when create. So they will still see the live version, won't they, Ludger? So you will make all the changes on your snapshot, and the individual will still see everyone else will still see the live version until the point at which you decide to migrate that across. That's correct, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Again, another question on the dynamic questions. If there is a hiding condition on the second question, those answer options will not appear, which is not helpful. Oh, is there a plan? Oh, sorry, I've lost the question there. One sec. Is there a plan to make the hiding of answers dynamic as well?
Yes, yeah, if that's required, definitely. I think it's these usual small follow-up questions that you would ask. yeah, but absolutely that should be possible then as well.
And upload question type, we don't seem to have this question type.
Then let's have a closer look.
Yeah.
These new question types are connected to layout versions. So
Yeah.
sometimes it's common that sometimes older layout versions are used because they are copied and not updated, because we don't force you. That might be the reason, but yeah, we can look into this and let's contact us and we will see how it looks.
Absolutely. So Eva, I've got your details. I will contact you afterwards, and just you can give us maybe some ideas of which project IDs you've got there, and we can have a look at it. Question 4: flipping of answers are split 50-50. I might follow up with you on that one. I'm not entirely sure what you mean there. So Eva, I'll make sure we'll contact you after this webinar. And then open response list question type. Could I have more info on it, as it seems like a single select question without radio buttons? Again, I think, Eva, I will make sure we contact you with a follow-up on those, and I'll share the info back to all the group as well. So I'll make sure that that gets maybe included in a little Q&A that when we send out the recording of this session.